is Maximilian Schreiter. I'm junior professor at HHL for entrepreneurial finance. That means research-wise, I'm dealing with venture capital and private equity, and let's say with the whole life cycle of private firms. And above that, I'm obviously lecturing. I'm lecturing in everything that is related to corporate finance, valuation, any kind of asset pricing, optimal capital structures, financing decisions, investment decisions, all that kind of stuff. And let's say teaching is what I have always had very much a passion for. The reason why I came back to HHL in 2019. I'm actually an alumnus of HHL, so I graduated 2012, and then I went into consulting. Above teaching and having this junior professorship, my role here at HHL is being the acting academic director for our master in finance programs, and that's something which I enjoy very much. I have really a big interest, or as I already said, passion for teaching. I was a tutor for finance and for mathematics, and also when I then went into consulting and it came to that option of doing a PhD, I decided to really step out of consulting and go to the university for doing the PhD. Then 2019, before that I moved back into consulting, but we were actually already parents at that time, and consulting comes with a lot of travel, with a lot of unpredictable working hours. And then the offer from HHL came together with the option to introduce a finance program. What is crucial for private equity is that combination of having strong finance expertise, but on the other hand, having a very good understanding of strategy and having a very good business sense. So it is very much at the intersection. So we call it pretty often corporate finance. So it's basically about making good management decisions, good investment decisions, good financing decisions. And I think that is very, very important, let's say, when it comes to the hard skills. And when it comes to the soft skills, private equity, and I think for many people it might be surprising, but I think it's also pretty much people's business. So you have to understand what the entrepreneurs on the other end of the table, the companies that you want to acquire, what they really dare for, what they want, how can you maybe also motivate them to stay on and develop the company further together with you. It's also about inducing change, transformation to companies, and it's obviously always good to do that in a very empathic way and to understand what the others really care for. So I think those are the key skills on the hard fact side, but then also on the soft skills side. Investment banking, many people say this is also a little bit the prerequisite before going into private equity, and partially it is. You can also move into private equity from consulting, but investment banking is obviously the other and maybe more natural part. And therefore, skill-wise, some of the stuff is the same. So you obviously need strong finance or corporate finance skills. What does that mean in particular? You should be pretty much an expert when it comes to financial planning and financial analysis. You should have a good understanding of how to value companies, multiple approaches, discounted cash flow approaches. One thing that hurts my heart a little bit being a finance professor is you also need a decent understanding of accounting. Now, there's always this rivalry between accounting and finance, but it's unfortunately true. You have to have a good understanding of financial statements and reporting standards and so on and so forth. That is also something that helps a lot. So if you talk about best preparation, it is indeed that this is something that you should prepare for before you basically apply for these roles. Ideally, the program you are in is preparing you already for that. If not, then you have to add that on top. Even if you are in a program that prepares you for that, there is, you find that online pretty often, a good set of like the 100 most important or classic application questions in investment banking. Go through them. Yeah, you will see that they are very much along those topics that I just mentioned. And I think this is the homework, the housekeeping that you have to do. And other than that, it's obviously about determination, and you should show that in the interview. Yeah, that you are really determined to do that job. It's a hard job because it comes with a lot of working hours. Weekends are not free. Yeah, for most of the firms. And you really have to make sure that you made up your mind beforehand that you are ready to at least test and try that in an internship, yeah, and that you also show them that you are well informed about this lifestyle and that you are ready to take it at least for a limited period of time. I think that is globally quite standardized. Yeah? So let me just name the positions first, and then I try to describe them maybe a little bit. So it starts always with being an analyst, yeah, and usually analyst programs are 3 years. Then you become an associate for another 2 to 3 years, and then you can basically become what is called a vice president, yeah, and after vice president you can become a director and then basically a managing director. Now, what is behind those names or roles? Yeah, so an analyst is really a person that usually on several assignments, several projects, basically runs the groundwork. Yeah, the financial analysis of potential targets. Yeah, runs the valuation, sets up ideas for the financing structure, and so on. In mean terms, people say this is also a big part of the monkey work that needs to be done. Yeah, so to put it in a bad way, but maybe also to illustrate it a little bit. Yeah, and then once you become an associate, you are, so to speak, the one directing or training the monkeys. Yeah? So you are sitting on work streams and you say, hey guys, I think we still need to do this, we still need to do that. You are the first quality gate for what the analysts do. And the work becomes a little bit more strategic in that sense, as that you are also setting the topics that need to be looked at. Yeah, and being a vice president is then when I would say that you really, for the first time, really actively engage with the customer. I mean, hopefully also as an analyst or an associate, you have exposure to the customer, but you are not the one running the show in a meeting. Yeah, but starting from vice president, there will be occasions where you do. Yeah, and if you do a good job, where you basically also start managing the client. And then starting from the director position, I would say the job description changes a bit, because I'd say the vice president is still someone who is very much into the content and really developing the project. And on director level, you rather go then also into this acquisition mode. Yeah, you also need to make sure that new assignments, so to speak, come and the team is served with enough work, so to speak. Yeah? And I think I stop it there, but I think this is kind of how to think about investment banking. And then I think what is important, that you obviously have exit options. Not everyone takes all the steps to managing director, because I said workload is quite high. It's also very competitive. Yeah? It's a pyramid. Yeah? So not everyone can make it. But there are very good exit options. Yeah, a lot of people just stay on for their analyst years, maybe also just 2 of the 3 analyst years, and then they switch to something like private equity. That is quite natural. Yeah, maybe just as one exit option. And if people leave later, maybe as a vice president or so, you see pretty often that they would also switch for industry roles. Yeah, head of M&A at a bigger company, stuff like this. the first thing that people have to understand is that it's not very natural to step into private equity directly after your studies. Yeah, I mean, some of the bigger companies, they have nowadays analyst programs, but it's quite rare. Yeah, so the usual way into private equity is during your studies, you ideally do the one or the other internship in private equity, to already understand what is needed, to get some connections into the industry, but obviously also to build your CV and to show in your CV, hey, you have really a strong interest in that field and you have had that already early on. Yeah. And then you usually, after your studies, you need to do 2 years at least of something else. Pretty often, as I already mentioned, investment banking, or maybe you go into management consulting. Yeah. So therefore, let me maybe talk about this very first step of like how to get into an internship, because I think this is in particular interesting for students. Yeah. And I think again here, it is important to show that you have that mix of strategic knowledge and financial expertise that I mentioned earlier. Yeah. And this should come from your study background. So highlight basically what you know about corporate finance topics, yeah, valuation, deal structuring, leverage buyouts, yeah. And on the other hand, what you bring already from a practical perspective to the table. So it doesn't make sense to apply for private equity. So if we talk about tips, doesn't make sense to apply for private equity if you have no practical experience so far in either finance or strategy. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so you need to have an investment banking internship, or you need to have a consulting internship, or maybe even both. Yeah, I mean, in consulting, it can be many ways. Yeah, it's fine to join something like a Big Four for financial advisory. It's fine to have worked at a restructuring consulting firm or at a bigger management consulting firm. So many things are possible, but you need to show this pre-experience, yeah, and always in combination with some financial expertise. And for example, that could be banking or investment banking internship. So I think that's maybe first of all when it comes to CV building. Yeah, so make sure that you have that. Other than that, the standard in investment banking and private equity is a one-page CV, no picture, very conservative, very formal. Yeah, do not put a lot of icons and colors on it. This is not what is needed and is asked for. Yeah, and then when it comes to, let's say, the next step of application. So if you have hopefully made it into an interview, I think the most important preparation that you should do is that you are able to calculate a leverage buyout on paper. Yeah, so really make sure that you understand how a leverage buyout works. Yeah, so how is an entry value calculated based on a multiple? Yeah, what are the value creation levers of private equity? What is private equity targeting at? It's always an exit, yeah, usually after 5 years, something around this, and they want to have an internal rate of return of at least 20%. So be sure that you can calculate an internal rate of return, be sure that you can come up with an exit valuation, and then that you can connect the dots to the entry. Yeah, so this is, I would say, on the financial side, the most important thing. And then obviously that's standard, I hope, for all job interviews. Be prepared for the company itself. Yeah, be sure that you understand what are they investing in. Yeah, what are their portfolio companies. Have the one or the other anecdote sitting ready. Yeah, about their portfolio companies, to really show that you have strong interest and that you have basically dealt with the company itself. Yeah, and then above that, it's a little bit what I mentioned for investment banking, maybe not to that extent, but have the financial basics ready. Yeah, when it comes to financial statements, when it comes to valuation, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure whether this is an industry that is changing so dynamically or rapidly. Yeah, I think that the skill set that banks are looking for is still pretty much the same as it was 5 to 10 years ago. I mean, one big trend that is obviously out there is that investment banks try to become more diverse, yeah, so that they basically want to increase the share of females, that they want to increase the share of different cultures and nationalities, because they have fortunately also understood that this usually helps team performance, yeah. And that this is something that is worth to be a good target. So that means, as an applicant, obviously, if you are interested, being a female and you want to go into the still very male-dominated market, I think now is a great time. Yeah. It is one where, let's say, from the highest levels of the investment banks, there is a strong willingness of bringing in some change. Yeah. And the same holds true also for any other diversity measures. Yeah, so that is maybe one big trend. Other than that, I would say, as I said, the skill set that you need is still pretty much the same thing. I mean, one market trend that will be interesting to see how that impacts careers is obviously AI, because I talked in a little bit a bad way about the monkey work of analysts. Yeah, obviously there is a lot of stuff that needs to be done there that also an AI can help with. And I think all big and also smaller investment bank boutiques are basically experimenting with what could be done to basically facilitate work and free up some hours. I fear they are not freeing up hours, so to speak, for having spare time, but rather for maybe even putting more projects on the people. Yeah, but I think that's still another trend. So I could imagine also in that whole process of applications, job interviews, if you show that you have a thorough understanding of like how to prompt, what kind of large language models are out there and so on, that could be nowadays also quite helpful. I think this standing out part is really that you are already able to connect the dots within a deal, yeah, so within one leverage buyout. So if you are able to make a good estimate of like what could be the entry value for a company, yeah, so you have an idea about multiples, industry multiples, where to get benchmarks from, yeah, and then based on that you have a good understanding of like what could be now a financing structure that works in such a case, and you are not just qualitatively talking about it like I'm doing it now, but and I think this is a very good strategy for an interview, you directly quantify, yeah, make your assumptions, be so to speak, a little bit forward going and out leaning when it comes to that stuff, where you say, hey, I estimate now, for example, that the average multiple, EBITDA multiple, is 6, and let's say if the company has a multiple of 50, then we talk about an enterprise value of 300, and I think we can apply a 50% leverage ratio to it. Yeah, so try to be very specific, very sharp to the point, and quantify basically what you're talking about. I think that is something that private equity counterparts love, because that is what they also need to do in their daily work. Yeah, it's not so academic, but it is analytical. Yeah, so they need to make very good, sharp assumptions, and they have to be quick and pragmatic in their judgments. And if you show this in an interview, I'm pretty sure that you are one step ahead of most of your peers. One thing that everyone in that industry first really has to adjust to is the workload and the pressure, because that's high. Yeah, and therefore I always recommend our students to do internships. Yeah, you rather do one internship too much, yeah, and extend your study time a little bit. I mean, who cares over a work lifetime of several decades? Yeah, so rather take 3 months more and check out whether something is really right for you. Yeah, because I think that is the one big challenge in early career investment banking is you're really working long hours. Yeah, might be 100 hours a week, and that's tough. Yeah, and you still have to perform in this time. Yeah, so it's not just being present there, but also still being sharp and being productive. Yeah. And on the one hand, you probably still want to manage your personal life during that time at least a bit. Yeah, so I think that's this can also be added to the challenge list, so to speak, yeah, of like how to do that you're not losing yourself. Yeah. And I think other than that, not sure whether it's a challenge. You could also say it's an opportunity. I think it is important to use those first months and years to really build expertise that you haven't had beforehand. Yeah, so to go out of your comfort zone. You may come with a strong background, I don't know, in valuation, in financial statements, financial analysis, financial planning, but really try to get into the tricky stuff that you haven't heard so much about beforehand. Yeah, how do financing structures work? How do M&A negotiations work? Yeah, so even if you're still in that very junior role, try to acquire as many, let's say, more senior skills as possible. Yeah, so be eager to learn that and show that you are eager to learn that. And the second thing, I believe, with all this workload, that you can sometimes people forget about networking, which is still very, very important in that industry. Yeah, so build your network within investment banking in your own company, but also to other firms, because that might be very, very helpful going forward. What is special about HHL and how we help our students or our graduates is that we have a very, very personal approach to career service, to career support. Yeah? Because we're small, yeah, we're just running master programs. Master in finance is a class of 20 people. We also only want to have that in that size. Yeah, we have the master management finance track, another 20 people full time, another 20 part time. So we can really help people on a very individual level, and we do so. Yeah, and one of the first things we do, yeah, when it comes to strategy, is to really analyze together the CV and to think about, okay, what are meaningful steps? Because what is out there in investment banking, the same as in private equity, is some kind of mystic pecking order. Yeah, so you cannot do, I don't know, an internship at a local investment banking boutique, and then your next application goes to Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan. Yeah, there are certain buckets that you have to jump step by step, and it doesn't mean that the firms in the first bucket are bad. Yeah, usually they deliver the same quality, but they do that maybe for a different target size. Yeah, so they rather work in small cap or in mid cap. Yeah. And they maybe do not have the full industry span, or they do not have the full regional span. Yeah, so this is what distinguishes those companies. And what we help students a lot with is to understand, where are you standing at the moment? So what is realistic to apply for, and what are the next steps to take? Yeah, so that's always our very first thing. The second thing is that we then identify for those companies that now make sense to apply to, what are key alumni that we have there. Yeah, and then we connect our students to those alumni, and the alumni, and that's also something that makes HHL very special, are super responsive. Yeah, I think according to the Financial Times ranking, they last year for the very first time also evaluated the quality of the alumni network. We came in third globally, which is super awkward because we are small. Yeah, so we definitely do not win by size. Yeah, but we obviously win by interaction. So alumni are very, very responsive, and we connect students to them so that they can basically give hints of like, how is the process working? Yeah, what to focus on, what to prepare for. And that is the second thing that helps a lot, the second big strategy move. And the third one is what we already talked about. What is it really that you have to prepare for, and that helps you to stand out with. And then you will be successful. Yeah? I think we have a quite strong track record over the last years. People went into bulge bracket, be it Goldman, yeah, be it JP Morgan, be it Barclays, that works pretty well, and I think that's an approach that is quite successful. What differentiates the program very much is its super high share of practical relevance and of lecturers from practice. Yeah, we do a lot of co-teaching, and it means although we are so small, you will basically deal with a lot of senior experts. Yeah, so just as an example, we do restructuring together with a very famous restructuring consulting firm here in Germany. They bring in not just a partner, but basically 3 project managers and 3 more consultants, and work together with the students. We have a case study seminar at the very end of the program with finance professionals, where someone from an investment bank is coming. As in the past, we had people from Goldman, from Barclays, also sometimes more from the small cap area, Lincoln, BNP Paribas. We have always someone from private equity firm doing a leveraged buyout with the students in that seminar. Yeah? So we had in the past Bensis Capital, we had Equite, IK Partners. So also very well-known companies, and the same holds true for capital budgeting. Yeah, this is something that we do together with Procter & Gamble, for example. And when it comes to restructuring in that case study seminar, also something that we always do with a well-renowned consulting firm. So I think that makes it super special, because you are not just getting the concepts from our side and not just some lecturers that may have worked in the industry like me, but you really get the latest knowledge and the latest, so to speak, practical insights from people working in the field.